Hi there. If you can hear me, it'd be great to have somebody give us a quick message. I'll give a couple of minutes so people can give them a chance to sign in. I'm just waiting for a few people to sign in. If you can hear me, whoever that is, I can see there's a few people watching. Can everybody hear me clearly and see the video footage? I can't hear you, obviously. I'll give it a couple of minutes to see if the numbers build up a minute. And then I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what it is that I'm going to try to do today. It's been an interesting experiment, but it is strictly that, it's an experiment. So I hope that it that it all pays off. I've got 4 or 5 different versions that should generate a few prints, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, right. Right, so there looks to be a few of you on there now, so I'm going to get started with, right, what I'm going to do in a minute is go back and I've sort of half finished one of my portraits that I'll show you the underlying drawing for that one. Wait a minute, there we go, so that's the underlying drawing, that's another version of it. I'll put that out of the way, get a better view of it. So what I'm going to do in a minute is go and work back with these. These are, change the lighting a bit, I hope I can set it back to how it was. They are Crayons Neocolor watercolor crayons. I think there's others that are available. I can't say I've used them. I've been using them for probably at least 15 years. And I find them really versatile, but I know from some of the comments that people have made about the this particular demo that yeah, a lot of people haven't found much use for them, so hopefully I can find that I can give you some use for them. So what I'm going to do in a minute is go and do that, and you can see me working with I realise that a lot of you here for the gel printing, this is obviously gel printing related, but it takes a bit of priming up to get where, I mean, it wouldn't be the case if it wasn't portraits, but portraits are largely what I do, so that's what I'm going to do in this demonstration, because just in case, because it's an experiment, if it goes wrong there's more chance that I can retrieve it if I do portraits, so that's why I'm doing portraits. Hope that makes sense. Okay, then what I'm going to do, or what I intend to do, now this is all very dependent on what the paint does when I use it to stamp print. So what I'm going to do with this one, let's move these guys out of the way, I'll show you them in just a minute, is I'm going that, believe it or not, is a couple of layered up versions as well as this one. That's a print that came off the gel plate of this. I've used a bit of a resist technique with the oil pastels that I use, a bit like Yates makes on his YouTube channel. I said it last week, I said if anybody's in contact with him, I'd love to drop him a like, because it's been yeah, he's given me a whole new window of how to use gel plates like a lithographer. It makes such a difference, and he's the inventor of it. I'd like to send him a print. Yeah, so I digress. So what I'm going to do, or my intention is to take an off-center print with one of the smaller gel plates that I've, or medium-sized gel plate. That's the, I think it's, I said this before, didn't I? I can't remember what the sizes are, but can't get there. So it's the 10-inch, I think, by 8-inch gel plate. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the 10-inch by 8-inch gel plate. I'll also be using, highly likely with this one, something like that. I might off-center it a bit and then print them into this, depending on how the resist works. I'm still very much in the initial stages of it. I've had a couple of days to play with it, maybe 3 or 4, but I was busy earlier in the week with other paintings. And I'm getting some headway, but it's still very experimental. And then later on, if there's time, which there should be, I'll work, depending on how this one goes, once I've done a bit of work to it, but I'll work one of these 3 here that I've done in preparation, and I've got quite a big, the biggest gel plate that Jelly make, and I'm going to do, I'll try some resist prints out of that, and I might even, whatever I take off of that plate, because it'll be completely A3, it'll be an A3 plate print, not from this, but what'll be left as the resist, hopefully, or as the residual image on the gel plate. And then I might just go in with a very simple, how did I call it, binder colour, so that activates the acrylic layer that was put on, or the acrylic layers that were put on before, and just do a really quick print, just so you can see how the watercolour crayons bleed into the acrylic paint. Now, I'm not likely to be using any liquid acrylic on this test, but I think it would, yeah, you'd probably find you get quite drastic differences in how it performed, maybe advantageously or disadvantageously. I haven't tried it yet. It's something that I will try, but I'm a bit short on gold, and that's all I really use at the moment is the golden acrylics. And as I've spent such a long time, this is all day today, this has taken me to do this, setting them up. I'm not about to waste half decent, what could be half decent prints on not half decent paint equipment. So it's just not an experiment that I've run. But if you've got or you're going to get some of the watercolour crayons, the liquid acrylics might work just as much, maybe even better. Right, so I'll get on and do a bit of work with the watercolour pencils, not watercolour pencils, watercolour crayons. There is a difference. I have got watercolour pencils, and it's definitely something, because I think it will be a bit like the difference between the oil pastels and wax crayons. I think there'll be a lot, well, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get a lot more detail with the watercolour crayons. But in my experience of using watercolour crayons, and we can go into this later, there's a lot of difference in the quality out there, and obviously the more that you spend, the better they are. I wish it wasn't that way, but yeah, I use I've been using Intense, and I can't remember the other. I think that might be Caran d'Ache as well. And yeah, they've got it down to a fine art now, where you don't see. You can completely sort of obfuscate or confiscate the whole mark of the pencil. You can just turn it into a watercolour media. Right, so yeah, I mean, I work in quite lively colours anyway, generally, most of the time, but I have amped them up a little bit for this, just to, I know the lighting's a bit of an issue. I also know that my left hand gets in the way when I'm working. I'm sorry about that. I mean, when I'm, one of the things, I set the background first, so I mean, really that's all I've done is set the background, and I sort of stick within the lines, within some scope, not always, but mostly stick within there, and I work out quite a linear line drawing for nearly everything that I do, especially on this scale, because I mean it didn't used to be something that I did a lot of, but about 20 years ago I started just to save the most time intensive part of what I do generally is the drawing aspect of it. So, but what it also means is it leaves things wide open to replication for me, which keeps the door open for printmaking. And the gel plates have been like a revelation in that regard. They're fun. Somebody was saying that it sounded a bit like me actually, but I think they will change how people see printing without a doubt. There's so much that happens on them that I don't know. It's very difficult to control because it's chemical process. But again, that depends on the media that you're using as well. What I found, or I think I found, I don't know, reiterate again, it is an experiment, is that if you put a bit more, I've tried it being, this will make people laugh and know me, being a bit more subtle with the colour and it just being almost like, you can't call it a wash because you're not using a brush for it, but that's all you get out the colour, if like light layers, and I don't think it takes very well. It sort of gets caught in a middle land where you don't get a good print out of this and you don't get a good print out or a good resist out of what you're using on the gel plate. And it's not to say you can't do something to reinvigorate it and bring it back to life, but yeah, that's why I wanted to go through, amongst other reasons, so you can see me working on them as well. That's why I wanted to show you me actually, because I think that the volume of surface media that you get on with using these does make a difference. They do need to be quite, I'm not going to say heavy-handed, but you need to be quite assertive with your marks. I mean, you may find differently. I'm a bit way that inclined anyway. So with my painting to. Shut up for a minute. I mean, I've got a lot more colours in here and these tend to be the bulk of what I use. And usually what I'm sure I'm contradicting myself even as I say this, but usually what I'm looking to do with colour is build some sort of dimensional illusion at least. So yeah, colder colours tend to, yeah, I'm using them for the obvious recession, and the warmer colours I'm hoping to, yeah, and I'll quite often push the two against each other to, you know, create some sort of tension here, like that. I know orange and that kind of imperial purple are going to play with each other. But this, I mean, this is one of the points where I find myself asking questions about how much do I experiment here now. Something that I've been sort of playing with, and you can see it evident on some of the other previous colour ones that I prepped up for this demo. So I'm leaving gaps between the colours and the marks of each colour because I think they're going to interact, but they might not do. So it's I mean, I'm tempted to go back up. That's probably a bit big across there. So just to play it up, I'm going to throw in a bit of a sort of, I don't know what you call that, dark emerald green. Put a piece of that underneath it. Well, so you know it's flattening out. doing this and sort of flying on autopilot a bit. Thanks a lot for all the comments this week, that's much appreciated on that front. I was not expecting as many people to respond to it as have done. Very reassuring, thank you. Now obviously I want to leave some blank areas because I want the paper to absorb some of whatever I'm going to put in as an acrylic layer in just a moment, or when I get around to using this one, and either stamp printing it or dropping it down face down into the larger gel plate that I've got. I do like the stamp printing thing. I think that's another door open where you can, where the register becomes very idiosyncratic. Like you can do it around the composition of the picture rather than composing the picture inside of the register. Or I don't know whether you can do that. I'm playing with ideas about that at the moment. I hope that makes sense. It probably sounds a bit abstract, sorry if it does. Right. Yeah, so Karen Dash, I know I've got a bit of a funny accent and other people don't. Karen Dash, let's hope my accent doesn't come through in how I pronounce the letters. Right, you've probably all heard of them, but it's CARRAN dash apostrophe ACHE, and they're called Neocolor 2. Neocolor is one word and the 2 is written as Roman numerals, so 2 I's. Right, I'm gonna leave that, I think. Very different drawing and painting when you know you're being watched, actually just meandering around, which is what I've been doing most of today. I just want a bit of continuity across there. I'm going to have like bits of blue breaking the air. I want to get that in. Okay, I mean I could play with that a lot more, and if you look at the other ones that I've done that I'll bring back into the picture now, they're a bit more developed. What I mean by that is, most especially this one, that I've worked in the colours quite a lot. I've gone over, there was a lot of correction to do with that one, but I'm glad I did it. So that'll be an interesting one to experiment with. Now, I think that one's going to be, I'm not going to say out of control, but it's an interesting one to look at because there's quite a lot of heavy use of the watercolour crayons. This one's got quite a bit as well, and I've got other purposes for that, obviously with what I intend to do with the residual print, but just in case it doesn't work out, I have got other plans as well. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll move on to that one now. So they're the other 3 there. We'll at least do one of them in a bit, so I can just show you what it looks like, as almost like a, what do they call it, a blank print, where I'll just do not with this one obviously, but with those other 3, one of them, I will put that onto the larger gel plate that I've got. I'll probably use pale umber, buff titanium, or titanium white, or a very pale colour anyway, and just do you a print and then babble for 10 or 15 minutes while it dries off, and then I'll be able to show you, and we'll do a lift and see how it goes, because you'll be able to see then at least what takes with the watercolor crayons. I mean, one of the experiments that I tried was that this one, which if I'm honest is probably my favourite one so far, using it like this. How's that look when I do that? Any better? It's one of the ones that I'll post a decent photo of it sometime in the next 24 hours. What I did, and you'll see here, I've stretched this piece of paper after I did the print with it, and what I did with this one is exactly what I'm just discussing. I worked out quite a with the watercolor crayons, I worked out across most of the entire thing. In fact, I think there wasn't much left in the white paper. Then I did, because I think that was the first one I just did, I rolled out what was left of as the residual image on the plate. I just did a binder of titanium white over the top of it, left it to dry, and it was, I can't say it was massively successful, but then I scratched back into it with the graining tools that I use, which hopefully you can, like, you're supposed to use them as a cup, but I used that, and it's a bit like, it's no different to using the edge of a scalpel, not a scalpel, a palette knife. And when I scraped them back out and scraped a lot of the residual acrylic paint, you can see it around here, I did a red stamp, centre stamp with the middle-sized plate that I've got. It really came to life, and yeah, I mean, it's often the case. One that you think is not going well at the beginning is the one that you like the most at the end. Right, so put that to one side again, and I've got a bit of a choice. I don't really want to use that one, but I'll have a look at what happens to it in terms of the residual image, because there's quite a lot of, there's some areas that obviously are going to, like, I have to think about that these areas are going to pick up whatever I use as the plate colour. So I mean, there's a lot of red missing there, isn't there? That's what I think, and I'm quite fond of put it to the back now. I would have done, wouldn't I? Might take me a minute or two to find it. There it is. Yeah, so this is Permanent Magenta Galleria. It's medium body acrylic, standard acrylic. It's not particular, it's middle of the range. It's not the worst, it's not the best. Okay, and yeah, I try to, I don't think having a lot of, seems to be the lesson that I keep having repeated back to me, probably because of the way I paint, but go easy with the colour. You can get away with being quite economical. I might have been a bit too economical with that, we'll say. And this plate has got slight blue tint to it, so be borne in mind when I'm looking, and you're seeing it through this side, well, both sides. Right, I'm just going to drop that in there, see what it does. So you can still, I think you can still see the image through there, so you can see how thin a layer of paint that I put onto it. Now this is the bit that is experimental, but obviously because this is the point of contact, I'm not sure. Well, this is just going to take some time using this technique to figure it out. I don't know whether to you see, that's lifted a lot of it up. That's okay. See, so that's what happens in that space of time. That is virtually blank. But that's not a big deal. So there's not going to be much of a residual image to use off of that one, so we'll do that with another one in a minute. But I think that'll pay dividends. Right, later. Okay, so one thing I can do while it's wet, I'm going to change the lighting a bit. I hope that's not affecting things too much. And I'm going to scrape out so you'll see it in a minute as I work it across the face. I think that was the right colour to go for, even though it was a bit greedy with the rest of the plate. I like leaving the frame in. Obviously it's optional, but I've got a bit of a thing about reframing things anyway, so where I can I'll leave the frame in. Now the reason I haven't gone in with that smaller plate is that I am thinking I might try that all again. Well, what I might do now is mix up the media. See how it's working with that yellow? Fantastic, I'm really pleased with that. Makes the green work as well in her eyes and under her nose. Somebody's going to say she's got a cold. It's invariably going to happen. Yeah, and another thing that I'm forgetting to say here that can be quite... I'm working on a cutting mat here. What I found, I mean I can feel it right now as I'm using the cutting mat, is what I usually do this on is reinforced glass, the reinforced glass of my light box, which is directly underneath the cutting mat. Or steel or something quite strong that the more it pushes back on a smooth surface, okay, a steel plate would be fantastic. The more you can dig into the surface of the image. The paper that I'm using, which is quite important as well, doesn't have to be exactly the same paper, but it's quite heavy gauge. It's 200 pounds. Sorry, it's 200 GSM, and I can't remember what that is pounds wise, but it's Canton's. I'll see if I can find it for you. It might take me a minute. Hang on a minute. So all of these are on that Canton's mixed media Imagine. Okay, right. So yeah, this is an evasive tactic coming up now. Right, so the other thing that a couple of the ones that I used to, I think at least one of the ones that I used to as the experiment that I posted yesterday, the photos of, I used wax crayons over the top, and I think I'm going to do that with this now, and then take an off-centre square from somewhere on it. We'll see what happens. Just to mess with the frames a bit. I don't want it too central because I've obviously off-centred that one in the hope that the residual print will work. Apologies about that. So yeah, I'm going to go in now. A lot of this will show here, but it will scrape away. Because what I'm doing is putting on a wax layer onto established acrylic dry paint, and it will just, you'll get a bit of it left on the acrylic, but not much. It just scrapes away. I mean, another thing that these are very helpful. That's a transparent oil pastel. Obviously that means you can retain some of the colours, or all of it, underneath. But it obviously means you can't see when you're painting as well. But I never had a use for these at all until I watched the Yates Makes video where he was using the oil pastels, and it took me a couple of days to cotton onto it, and then yeah, I realised then it's oh, that's an ideal use for the transparent oil pastels. So yeah, I think what I might do is sort of reinforce that effect. See, I have to bear in mind that this is all this that isn't on, that hasn't been, so that's it's unused watercolour media. It's the same as like what, pastel, soft pastel, wax crayon, and it's going to activate as soon as I put a layer of some sort of water-based media on top of it. Another thing I've been thinking about that I sort of experimented with, but didn't really, I was too broad a stroke with it, was spraying the whole page with water. I don't think that's a good idea. It doesn't stick well to the jelly plate. It'll move and crinkle up, and it's not a good idea. Or it wasn't for me anyway. If somebody can get it to work, I'm all ears. But I think it might work quite well if I paint into it with a paintbrush and just get a few paintbrush marks, let it dry, and then do it. I'm pretty sure it might bite a little more. Sometimes it might be advisable to get it bite a little less. Right, okay. Just have to make a colour choice now and think about how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do that. That's what I think. Yeah, something like that. Move it down and across over there. Like I said, I don't want it too central, to be honest with you. And I like that eye. I'm less keen on this one, so I'm gravitating towards doing that. Something bold. Okay, so it's Galleria again. This is that's cadmium orange hue. Again, it's medium body acrylic. If I can find a half decent palette knife. So even more so the case with a little gel plate like this. It's don't put too much on. You're quite lucky I haven't used a hairdryer yet once to make you all go deaf. Right. Should get a better resist out of this. I don't know whether I'm going to be using it on any of those other painting stuff, which is a bit of a bummer, but so what I might do, it's a bit close with one of them. I'm not going to do it with the one that I intended with, but I'm just having a look at the other one. It might work, I'll say. Okay, still quite thin. I'll paint that. Give her a bit of a patch. Apologies about the paint the other side of this. Quite quick about this, I think. That was too long on the yard. Ah, you see, see, it has. There you go, there's the eye. So that's the resist working great there. Okay, I am going to try something with that, but what I'm going to do first is cut away at this. Because it's definitely a bit easier when it's wet still. Oh, look at how that's used that grey. That's great. That green in there. That's fantastic. I'm pleased with that. Go. You know what? I think that looks better if I just lay down as crying out so that once it right. That. Right, I'm going to give that a quick blast with the. I might come back to that in a bit. See what it does, because it's still sort of drying up here. I think that will go quite a bit darker, and it's tempting to do something similar over this side, but I'm going to leave it for a minute. Let's get this out. What I'm thinking is getting quite a bright colour and drop that in over the eye socket on that one and bring a square into that. So and this is quite interesting because these, if you, I don't know whether you can see here, but the more faded colours, in fact this is as well, that's all transparent oil pastel, but I've scraped a lot of it away. Now it will still have an effect on it, but I don't know how much of an effect it's obviously not going to be as strong as when it's just left there and it's raw stone. Yeah, okay. This is pale violet, and I'm using it as a sort of binder layer. Okay, first bit of the hair dry. Apologies about this. If you want to hit mute, I'll give you a second. It's quite loud. Okay. Very particular about drying off the roller. Way too much paint, way too much. I'm tempted to do something a bit wacky. That's it a minute. that then, haven't I? Where did that go to? Right, that was a pointless. I did not expect that to happen. Right, I know what to do. Apologies about that. Lift that. As I said, experimental process. I don't know, maybe it wasn't dry, I thought it was dry. You know what, I'm just going to put it in there anyway because I just want to see what it does. As I said, there's already quite an established layer of not going to leave it on that long. Oh, there we go. We'll see what that does. Has just made itself onto the nomination for getting reworked later. This one. There's a bit coming for it. Well, you can hear how hard I'm scraping this. Sometimes you do have to be quite heavy-handed. Right, I could digress quite a lot with this one, I think. It's not done with at all, but I'm not one for giving up on an image just because it's not doing what I want at that time. But what I would probably consider now is using Oil Pastel and building around the outline, and probably use some sort of blue like this ultramarine that I've used here, just to push the background back, because yeah, things are getting a bit lost with it, but that's not a big deal. I mean, this is what I mean, I could digress if I wanted to. I could start drawing in now with wax crayons, re-establish some of the values that were in there before. Not a lot of this will hold as an image once I scrape it away, but it will work as a resist if I use and I don't really want to get caught in a place where I'm disappearing off down a tunnel, which is really easy for me to do with this. So I think you've got some idea. That hasn't been the best example, those two. I apologise about that. What I'll do is the experiment with the larger gel plate. And just see what happens when I go for a block colour. So obviously I've established a bit of a frame here, so very rudimentary register, but I will use that for a print. I've used this bit. I'm not one for cleaning the gel plate at all, that kind of thing. That's quite built up. But if I can get that all out on one print, that'll make a hell of a secondary frame within the image. And it's conveniently, as you can see, A3. So, it's a decision on the colour, isn't it, really? Okay. I want to shy away from taking a bit of a risk. Okay, so this is powder blue, Winsor Newton again, it's Galleria. What I figure, the reason that I've chosen this colour is that if you look at the white patches, apart from here and there in the eye, it's all receding away, so I figured I'll use a light blue to assist that receding, because that's really going to pick up on the when I put that face down onto that, or hopefully it will do. That's right. Obviously it doesn't work as well as a resist in terms of the oil pastel and the wax crayons, because they're oil based and wax based and the water. But what you do, you get some interesting effects with the watercolour, the way it binds into the now that might work. I might get something out of that. I don't know whether you can see that, but I can. There is enough there at a push to play with. I'll have to pick my colour wisely, but what I'll do in a minute is I'll dry it off and I'll do a blank print with white paint and lift it off and show you what, hopefully it will show you what's been left as a residual image, so you can get some sort of idea of how much paint gets lifted and how much doesn't, because it takes up a lot of paint, but you do get, I can see where the purples and oranges, it's very faint, but yeah. Right, you might want to hit mute again while I dry it off, sorry about this. I should have dried off my roller as well. Sorry, I'm going to have to subject you to that again in a minute. Okay, right. I think I'm choosing using the white ship. Hopefully it will retain what's there. I can't guarantee it will do that, but it would be most helpful if it did, but we'll see in a minute. It shouldn't take, as long as I don't put too much paint on, shouldn't take a minute to bring it through. And I might actually just thinking to myself, I've got the line drawing here, so what I think I'll do, I'll put the line drawing down, see if, and then we'll have an idea of how much is, yeah, how much is retained, how accurate my registers are, which is probably not very accurate. But there are, I've figured out ways of doing that. It's quite simple. That's why I got a bigger plate. It's too that's too much. It's so I could start registering my prints, because yeah, I use them for other projects, which I'm sure if you've been looking through my stuff on Facebook or any of the channels that I've got now on social media, you'll see the penetrate stuff is right. Fingers in ears time again. Dubious, I'm going to take a bit more residual paint off, and I'll scrape some of the paint off of that one while I'm waiting for this one, so I'll let this dry properly, well, reasonably well on that. Oh my god, I don't know how close that was, we'll find out. I'll come back to that shortly, I'll get that. Oh, scrap. So you can see it does scrape away, but it binds a lot more to the than obviously the wax crayon and the oil pastel will do. So it actually gives you quite a tactile effect. Something I'll probably be experimenting with over the next week or so will be trying this on watercolour paper, which I don't know. I've got my doubts about it. Until I try it, I don't know. Because of the natural texture of most. It might not work on, I might actually find a use for using smooth watercolour paper, which I've always avoided like the plague. But this might be an opportunity to try some smooth watercolour. What do they call it? Hot pressed, isn't it? Is it hot press or pressed watercolour paper? That was definitely the, well, I think that was the right colour to go for. Makes me think a lot about like the continuity of an image that you can get from using a plate to establish it in one hit. Very like the camera. It's like the shutter speed, isn't it? I'm babbling nonsense down my water. I think I know what I mean. I think one of the advantages that, like, I'm only just realising that while I'm doing this, that you get that over, not so much with the oil pastels, but with the wax crayons tend to be quite limited in their colour range. They're aimed at kids, which obviously I'm a 50-year-old child. I take that offensively. What the kids only get to play with wax crayons. So you might get more colour range. In fact, I'm pretty certain you'll get. There's a lot of colour range to the Dash. Those Neocolors. And what I also found, and this is something that I don't know how I'm going to incorporate this, but like I said, I've been using these for a while. The Neocolors, Watercolor crayons. And something I figured out reasonably is to use water-based varnish with them. And then they almost become like, so acrylic-based varnish. And they almost become like oil paints. You can manipulate transparencies and then paint over the top. You get some really interesting effects when you add that kind of, especially if you use a gloss varnish. So that's something that I'm thinking, because there's no reason you can't use that kind of acrylic-based varnish on a gel plate. It's acrylic. So it's definitely something that I'll be playing. I just haven't used it yet, but that's something that I've done in the past with other paintings using these. And I see no reason not to use it on, I mean, it's something I could do now. I've got a squeegee, that's what I usually use. Just put a bit of, I'm not going to, this is what I mean about digression, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to stick to the point. Maybe that'll be next week, so I've sort of got something planned for next week's already, I think. I've got to get a couple of bits of kit, but I have made it, you know, this is the third one in succession, and I realised that a lot of the people that are watching me are coming through the gel plate groups, and that's why I've sort of kept it on Facebook at the moment, because yeah, they've been such a sort of welcoming group, and it's made a big difference to me, and if I can give a little something back, then, you know, so be it. I'm more than happy to do that. But what I will probably do as I start going more into the painting and drawing side of things is I'll probably switch and do a bit of this live broadcast from Instagram and YouTube. So I'm not, at the moment I'll stick with Facebook, because I mean, I haven't had a look how many people are watching at the moment, but I could see how many people were showing an interest for the event when I posted it, and yeah, quite blown away by that. Watch me paint on a Sunday night. You must be bored. It's better than Last of the Summer Wine though, isn't it, for my British viewers, or Top Gear? Maybe not. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that one. I'm now thinking about putting varnish over the top of it, because once you varnish it, then you can start working with oil paint over the top of it, and oil bars and oil pastels. Not that I couldn't work with it, but it like freezes the layer underneath with it. That's why I originally did it, is that I could use it as a binder layer, and then like establish things on paper, and then build so many layers of acrylic paint up and acrylic varnish, that I can then use oil-based materials, especially oil bars and oil pastels. I'm got a bit of a penchant for them anyway. But I'm not going to do it. I might do it, but I'm not going to do it now. So, that's what I'm going to do. I've got none about that, sorry. Right, let's see how this has come out. Fingers crossed. Well, I can still see the drawing underneath it. Okay, it's quite subtle, and I'm quite sure if I left it there for a bit longer, you get to see more of it, but there's plenty there. I mean, if I give you a quick, it's like the cheek, it's the eye, this is the nose, mouth, cheek coming down here again, chin, top of the forehead, probably easier to work out with the background. There we go, I'll give it in. So these are, yeah, I'm using the watercolours again. It's easy to get confused between using watercolour crayons and wax crayons when you're both, it's like dunking your brush in your coffee. It will happen. Okay. Alright, so yeah, you get the idea. That's the eyebrow there. This is the nose, that's the eyebrow there. Nostrils. So you're probably getting the idea now that the drawing aspect of this is quite a, you won't be able to see it, I'm quite sure of that. It's very faint, even looking at it from where I'm at. But I can see enough of the line drawing to re-establish the constraints of the composition. And so you can see how important the line drawing aspect is to me with a lot of the processes that I use. It's absolutely vital, to be honest with you. I don't want to go too crazy here. Get a rough idea of what it's doing. Not one of these situations I could play all day with that. Right, okay, but because it's now being put onto a layer of acrylic paint, it's very much going to do its own thing now. Yeah, I mean, this will be an interesting experiment of its own because it's got that layer of acrylic paint as the base now. So that is now waterproof, and I'm using water-based materials over the top of it. When I add moisture to that in the form of the paints over the top of it, it's going to do something very different to how it would have behaved if it was just plain paper underneath it. I would guess. I'm no chemist, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen there. That's what I mean. Don't cross the streams. I don't want to go too low. I could quite easily with this. Shall I give it a try? Might as well do, wouldn't I? Let's build this up a little bit more then. Give us a second. It's a good job I put experimental at the beginning of this. That's my only get out here now. I might use that to play them off against each other a bit. is where I had to do a lot of correction on the previous one. Okay, so that's really rudimentary, so but I'll give that a go. It's just I don't want that. I'm trying the shape it up down there, but I'm in a very right. Try not to go now then. Okay. Terracotta, so it's Galleria again. How far are we in? Ooh, an hour. Wow, sorry about that. Well, I think it's really important that I keep the paint down to a minimum with this. Put more paint on. It's still a bit wet with the white there, but I don't think that'll hurt too much. Not that wet. Blend in. Perfect. Done it again. Give me another chance at it now. Okay, I'm getting quite congested over here, aren't I? Sure, don't confuse all these different crayons. Oh, I quite like that now. That was the right colour, wasn't it? Okay, that's done something quite interesting now. I don't know what to do with that. It's very faint. Okay, I'm going to dry it. So if you want to hit mute again, you're not listening to the hairdryer. I mean, if I wasn't on time restricted sort of constraints, I'd block a lot of this in and treat it much more like a standard monoprint, and I can see enough of that in there. I mean, I don't know what I'm tempted to oh, I'll tell you what I'm tempted to do. Right, let's try this. I've just had an idea. Right, so what I'm tempted to do is scrape all this off, dry it off, which it pretty much is anyway. Then I'm going to go round it with the wax crayons, and then I'm going to put a ultramarine plate across there, just like I did with the terracotta, then the pale terracotta, and then drop this back into it with the wax crayons over the top of the watercolour that I've used on the acrylic. They've held quite well, haven't they? I expected them to disappear a bit, but no. that's the first time that I've really done that. Dry that. Get one beer mug. Change my mind a little bit now. I'm nothing if not spontaneous. Right, so this is the transparent oil pastel. I think I'm just going to try and hold on to some things here that are already established within the image. Always a bit difficult, this bit, because this is very much in the dark. Right, okay. Let's go for it. Dried off, which of course it isn't. Right, sorry, hairdryer again. It's getting a bit full up here, isn't it? Right, sometimes this is the bang on the right colour to use. Sometimes it's not. But I can see why Yves Klein had such a fascination with this colour. It's an interesting one. It's going to be a dominant colour, so I don't want it too thick. Okay. A bit more, I think it was a bit too bright before. Yeah, this is why I use the heavier gauge paper, the thicker stuff. don't worry, a lot of that will scrape out. I'm going to give it a chance to dry off. I'm going to dry that bit off. So, here rolls again. Time. I'm just going to do this as one colour, but again, if I was playing with a bit more time on my hands, this is, I forget what this is now, Raw Sienna Opaque, Galleria again, it's a solid bit of it though. And then I'll probably just try a print off of this one. There's actually quite a lot there from that one, using the oil pastels. I'll just pop a piece of paper onto that just a minute. Again, it would have been, if I'd have known I was going to be doing a third version of it, I thought I covered my bases by doing having a backup line drawing. But if I'd have been smart, if I had a bit more time, I would use the line drawing like I did for that one and take a print, and even if everything goes belly up and I can't see anything in the line drawing, I lose the image altogether, I can put it onto the light box, switch the light box on and beam. Quite frequently you can beam the image through from the other side, or you can, I mean, I've found ways of, like, you can beam the image through if you use non-porous pens like these, that's a rotary ticky fibre tip pen, but the ink that they use is non-porous, so it's permanent, and that means that you can draw an image on the reverse side or something, stretch it, and you won't lose the integrity of the image. Most ink in pens is not non-porous. Right. Might take a minute to dry. While that dries, I'm going to scrape that down and I'm going to call it a day, because I think you're getting bored and you've got other things to do. But I'm going to go and get a bite to eat, but I'll probably be around for a couple of hours afterwards. If you want to drop me a line, or you got any questions about what it is or why I'm doing things the way I am, I might not have all the answers for that. But I will be around for a little while afterwards. But I have got to wait. I haven't eaten all day. It's literally been, I mean, I'm sort of quite pleased with, especially this one's coming out quite nicely. I don't really have a lot of expectations of the images as I'm doing them now. I'm like quite happy to see what happens as they appear in front of me, rather than having a very fixed perception of how a plate should turn out or a painting should turn out. I don't. Quite often looking for a way to make it as idiosyncratic, and I quite like finding my way out of errors within my painting so often. I think that's why artists are they're their own worst enemies. But I'm digressing again, it might not be for you, certainly is for you. Right, okay. I'm quite pleased with that, there's things I would do with it. It's always this area here, but I'm quite happy with how that's turned out there with just that faint blue bit there leads you around the rest of it, and there's enough there to establish. I'll go back in and work in it, but that eye is holding it all together right now, which is great. That's fantastic, but I would probably work on it a little more, maybe do a bit more with the transparent oil pastel, work a bit of wax crayon when it's dry in and around here, which obviously does the same thing as the oil pastel, but again remembering that the whole thing has been, it's not white paper, that is, it's got a layer of white acrylic that whatever media I put now onto it, that white acrylic is really the base of it, so it's a non-porous base to it. Okay, so I'm quite pleased with that one. I don't know what you make of it. Let's see what this one's done. It might take a bit of drying off. Yeah, I think it will. Give it a moment. And then I'll let you go. Sorry. I hope it's made some sort of sense. I know I'm quite... I digress a lot. It's a major problem. It's not a major problem for me in terms of my work, but people who know. Just muttering in the corner of the room to himself again. Right, anyway, I'm going to dry it off quickly with a hairdryer. Last time. So I advise pulling a plate like this at a large scale. I usually pull the plate away from the paper, not the other way round. This is a wacky one, this one. It's definitely got stuff I can play with here. Wow. There you go, I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger. I'm quite pleased with that. I actually think that's got a little bit more potential than that one. So strange that that produces what you can do with linear work then. You wouldn't think the two things were correlated, but bar the composition, but they both generated each other. Bonkers. Anyway, cheers for watching. I'm going to work on that a little bit later on because that's got a lot of potential. I think I might do a live broadcast during the week, but it'll be very spontaneous, so about the middle of the week, just whoever's watching, I'm not going to do it as an event, I'll just, yeah, depends how things go, I might not do. What I was going to do for next week's, I shouldn't tempt fate really, should I? I've just found another place I could have used. Right, I was going to, I'll do it on Facebook, but these are all some of the first attempts at me using this technique, so they're quite rudimentary. And this is a friend of mine from over in Canada called Layman, who I'm working on a portrait of because I'm quite a big admirer of what he sort of does in the media space. He's what do they call them? Psychonaut. Put me in that bracket as well, I reckon. Yeah, so they're all. These are all resist techniques, but I've also done some, you know, quite reasonably polished drawings and paintings of him as well. I mean, that is, but you won't see it, but it is vaguely there, but I really like the patination across that one. And what I might do, that's got nothing to do with it, is show you how I build one of my penetrates. I mean, it doesn't have to be out of that one. This one that I've got going on here, that's a common one that I've made penetrates out of, and I've got so many versions of using that composition. I'll probably rework that, and then yeah, I could show you almost like a gel plate penetrate but I need to get a couple of bits of equipment before I do that, so it's not a definitive, and it'll be maple gel plates, but I won't be, if I'm going to do that, it will take up all the space. So I won't actually be doing any gel plate printing, but it's a way of using, it doesn't have to be gel plates, it's a way of using any imagery that I've sort of invented. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, those of you that left. I know I've dragged on and gone down many a dark alley of like digression, I hope. Thanks for being patient. Hopefully you've got something from it. Like I say, I'll be around in about an hour. If you want to give me a shout, now that's dried out, that's looking really good. Yeah, drop us a line, usually pretty good at responding, and let me know what you think. Okay, thanks a lot. Ta-ra.